The Dark Knight is a film written and directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Christian Bale as Batman and Heath Ledger as the Joker. The film was released in 2008 as the second installment in Nolan's Dark Knight franchise. Today we will be analysing a scene in the film and talking about the lighting, mise-en-scene, acting, sound, camera work and editing. The camera work in this film is very unique compared to other generic action films being released these days. In this scene being analysed, there is a common use of medium shots. This is shown when a character's costume is being shown, and there is also close-ups where a character is talking or in the shot where the cops place the Joker's knives on the table. When Commissioner Gordon is describing the Joker, the camera pans from his feet to his hair, showing off all of his costume that we know and love.
It's DNA, dental, clothing is custom, no labels.
This scene is significant as it is the first time we get a proper look at the Joker with his iconic look from the comics. The camera angle showed that the Joker was by himself in the cell, sitting in the middle with nobody around him. But when it went over to the other side of the cell, everyone was standing around Commissioner Gordon, congratulating him. Nearly all of the shots used in this scene are from eye-level view, making the audience feel like they are there and in the moment with everyone else. The editing in this scene emphasises that it is an emotional part of the film, as it is being revealed that Gordon is now alive and returning to the station and his family. To achieve this, the editor has slowed down the cuts and pace so that the audience can sit back and watch the characters' emotions and conversations. The shots were very slow in this scene, with shots being over 5 seconds each at most stages.
These ugly bastards. I don't feel good. You're a cop.
This was done to build characters and show what the relationships were like between the cops and the Joker, showing they were not friends at all. However, this meant that the shots were kept to a minimal, purposely achieving a slower pace to build emotion and character development. This was very well done, as I am sure that the audience would have been listening in and attached to these characters the entire time. One unique sequence in this scene is where it is edited so that we see Gordon at home talking to his family, then it cuts back to the cell. It blends emotion and suspense so beautifully to make us want more of both of the characters. We get suspense from the cell where one thing builds up to another, waiting to see what happens, and then we get Gordon talking to his son for the first time after his proposed death. One thing I firstly want to point out is that Heath Ledger's performance in this movie was amazing, and he definitely deserved an Oscar for his role. Did you know that the well-known clap that he did in this scene was all off-script? No one told him to clap, but he did it and he did it well. It makes the audience feel on edge and really question the Joker's sanity. Anyways, the acting work in this scene is very engaging and convincing to make the audience interested in the characters and want to know what they are saying and how they feel in this moment. It is all done very seriously to the point where you can tell how they are feeling just from their facial expressions. For example, in this scene where Gordon is being congratulated by all of the police force in the room, he is still very shaken and confused by the Joker's work. He has a very blank face, and you can tell he has been through a lot in the past couple of days and just doesn't know what to do. Even when he's shaking people's hands, he still looks awkward and looks over at the Joker as if he doesn't know what to do. He kind of just accepts what's happening in the moment. Heath Ledger adds a new spin to the Joker, but he still keeps the insane personality that the Joker has adopted through the comics over the years. Even though the Joker is in a jail cell, he looks still very calm, as if he knows that he will get out of there in a second. That is something that only the acting could show without dialogue.
Lighting is a largely used tool within this scene. This scene clearly demonstrates low-key lighting, due to the genre being action and the emotion the director, Christopher Nolan, is trying to convey, and the contradicting ideas of hope and fear that he has displayed within these characters. Hope is conveyed through the return of a heroic character, such as Commissioner Gordon, whereas the contradicting idea of fear is depicted through the Joker. In juxtaposition with the feeling of hope is fear, and with fear there are large amounts of low-key lighting and exposure used with the shot to the Joker, when they are placed on the screen, creating a lot of shadows and gloom within the frame, leaving the audience with this instilled feeling of fear, worry, and mystery that the Joker is set to portray. This message of hope and fear is annotated through light, the colours and tones of lighting especially. We see this in the golden, yellows, and light colours that yet again emphasise the idea of hope. This is first presented in the shot where Gordon returns home to his family, a form of symbolism for joy and the light coming back into the world due to Gordon being the underlying hero. But this scene as a whole will still demonstrate aspects of hard lighting, which sends the message to the audience that even though there may be some hope due to the character returning, aka Gordon, there is still some trouble yet to come. This also creates the image of harsh lines across the character's face, bodies, and setting, yet again embedding that idea of fear even further into the audience. When first introduced to the scene, there are large amounts of underlying noise, such as muffling, scuffling, banging, jail doors closing, walking, clapping, and people chattering. This demonstrates to the audience that already this is a very hectic environment, and that no character has been in or really knows how to approach the situation. But also, without getting a real look at the whole set, audience members are also able to put together the environment and to the extent of which people are involved. In the next cut of the scene, the key characters enter. Attention is straight away drawn to him and the conversation he is having. This was already going to happen due to the abundance of dialogue, but was emphasised or sped up due to when Gordon enters the room, he screams at everyone, immediately capturing their attention, ultimately taking back control of the situation that he left due to his false death. Introduced to dialogue by the characters, wording is either slowed down, sped up, or presented in a different tone, showing a deeper level of importance to the storyline depending on how it is presented, or even just showing a different level of emotion for each character. A perfect example of this is when Commissioner Gordon begins to speak, firstly introduced by yelling, as described earlier, but then he slows down his speech to a normal tone. He even mumbles or stumbles or loses a few words just to show the different level of emphasis he wants to have, also showing the sign of anxiousness, worry, and exhaustion from the whole situation he's been placed in. This sense of exhaustion and frustration yet again arises when he, Gordon, is talking about the Joker. The pace in which he delivers his words is sped up and gets faster and faster as he lists the number of dead ends he has discovered, really embedding the sense of frustration and confusion within the audience and taking them along the sense of the character's emotions and feelings. Another aspect of sounding is background music. The only time where we as an audience are introduced to background music in this scene is when Gordon returns home to his family. The sound is a soft violin and really helps to build the mood in which the character is depicting, hope. And this is really needed after such a quick scene and switching from being in the chaotic workplace to being in a peaceful and joyful environment, especially due to the scenes being cut so close together and such a quick transition. Mise-en-scène. Lighting is a very basic tool that is used during this scene. As already described earlier, lighting is used to set the tone and is used to create various emotions for the audience. But if we open up this scene, we really capture the colours that are used within it. For example, there are certain colours associated with good and evil, purple and black, representing the fact that Batman is associated with black due to being behind the scenes and in the shadows, and the Joker is in purple due to representing fantasy, and is paired with green to associate the ideas of danger and darkness. Really represent the difference in the purpose of each of the characters. We also see this trend through the use of costumes. When we see the Joker, we see his full costume as just being purple and green. But when we take a deeper look and have a look at the actual print on his shirt, we see a snakeskin print, depicting his behaviour as being snake-like, sneaky, evil, and unpredictable. This is also paired with the use of the Joker's makeup, the makeup being a clown, showing the radical and unpredictable behaviour of his character and really lifting that level of fear towards the audience.